There ain't nothing wrong with me that you can't fix. There ain't nothing wrong with me.
Welcome to Made in Nacogdoches. Today's guest is Josh Weigel. Hey, Josh, how you doing?
Good. Thanks.
Let me remind the people, I always forget this, like and subscribe, okay? We're trying to get, we just need 1 million likes, okay?
Not a problem.
No big deal.
Sure, that's no problem.
Anyway, welcome, Josh Weigel. I really appreciate you being here today.
I appreciate you having me on. Love this, Brad. Thank you.
Can you tell the people who you are, what you're about?
Well, I'm a filmmaker. I work with my wife very closely, Rebecca. We moved to Nacogdoches about 4.5 years ago to do a feature film out here called Sound of Hope, Story of Possum Trot. We call it Possum Trot. Based on a true story. I'm sure we'll talk a bit about it, but that's kind of the latest thing I've done. But I was in LA for about 23 years, did a lot of different things on my way to filmmaking. One of them was production design for quite a few years in the commercial space. So yeah, just loved it there and hated it at the same time. And we've got a whole saga behind how we got here and how we met you and all the rest. But
Yeah, I want to
that's
find
a little bit of a warm up.
So, where were you born?
I was born in Colorado,
Okay.
Denver.
Is that kind of still your home? Does that feel like home to you?
So I left there probably 18. It's always in me for sure. I've got family there. My wife's family, actually, a lot of them moved there as well. So there's a lot of reasons to go. I love it. I think somewhere, in my core, it'll always feel like home to some degree. I always think about what it would be like to go back, but it's not, how it is with film and all the rest. It's just a harder place to work from. So
did you wake up in Colorado and say, well, I'm going to move to Los Angeles to be an actor or director or director or something?
No.
Yeah.
I took a little different path because, my parents had their plans. We'd gone from Colorado to Arizona during my high school years, and that's actually just before that. And they began working with a facility for disabled adults. And that's kind of the period of my life where it became clear that not only do I love film, but it's what I wanted to do with my life. So it was there. We were only there for about 4 or 5 years and then went back to Colorado. But yeah, so Arizona is where that sort of hit me. And at that time I knew that, or it felt like, the film industry is 1 million miles away and pretty unattainable where I was at that point. So it was just one of those things in my heart that just began to kind of stir.
Did your parents question that decision?
No, not really. I don't know if they just didn't take it seriously or if they, they're artistic. My mom's very artistic. She was a hippie. They're both hippies. They met in the high point of the hippie movement. And so I think part of them was like, great, go do it, see what happens. But I think for anyone, it just seems so impossible that part of you is just probably thinking, well, you give it a try and then
it's a phase.
Be done with it and try something else. But they never said that to me. They never said much either way. It was like supportive. They're supportive parents at the time, but it wasn't like, hey, go do something practical, get a backup plan, those things like that.
Yeah.
They weren't ever part of our conversation.
Did you go to college or anything like that? Or
I did a couple years of school just in prep for film school. I didn't feel like, after talking to all kinds of people and reading, it just felt like there was only a couple places that had a meaningful impact on your career. So I attempted, probably like everybody, to get into those schools, USC, UCLA, others, and didn't. So after the 2 years of undergraduate, I just decided I needed to go to LA and work. I'd gotten married right around that time. And so really just wanted Rebecca to finish her degree and do what she felt she needed to do before heading to LA. So once she graduated, we both felt good about it. And, at that point, she was actually not interested in it. She was really, really supportive, but she wasn't sharing my vision for it. So that happened later, but yeah.
Did you have friends out there or anything? A place to stay, or did you just?
We knew one person that we had gotten to know, and he had or she had a former friend or a longtime friend that was working at the WB TV network at the time. That was just coming up. And so she managed to get me an interview there, and I just became an office PA at the time. And
Actually, that's a big break.
it wasn't. I mean, that's not easy. That's not easy, especially back then. I mean, there weren't even cell phones. I mean, we had pagers, and
Yeah.
you had a Thomas guide in LA, and there was no GPS. So all of that kind of stuff was much more difficult. But my goal was to get on a set as quickly as I could. So I was immediately began talking to people like, how do I get on a set? I want to see how this is done. So I was there for just a couple months, and then got onto the staff of a little production company that did a lot of the promos for the WB TV and Disney and different things. So that got me on set, and I just, soaked it up. As soon as I got on there, it just felt so right. And, even though it was, felt miles from film still.
So you were married before you went out there, right?
Yeah.
So when you guys because I know it's real personal to me, but the night before you left, when you packed all your stuff up, did you have any moments when you're like, what are we doing? What's going on? Have I gone?
I think Rebecca did. I don't know. For me, it was kind of like, finally. It's weird, I had a ton of confidence, but still it felt like, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. I wasn't afraid of it, though. I don't remember being intimidated by it much. But we literally had no idea how to even, put a toe into that city. So the internet was so young, and I remember we were trying to figure out where to live, and we just figured Hollywood.
Just going to ask you, where did you?
If you don't have anyone to guide you at all, you just start to think, okay, it must be Hollywood. I'll go to Hollywood, which is just basically a big tourist trap at that time. I mean, even now it's changed a lot, but it was, that's what we did. And we got an apartment that was a little bigger than a closet. We didn't even see it. We just got it online.
Were you in North Hollywood or?
We were literally in Hollywood.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I mean, right on Hollywood Boulevard, or just off Hollywood Boulevard. It was so bad, though, that, when we got there, we're like, we cannot live here. This is not going to work.
Yeah.
So it was tough, but we got out of the situation, and they gave us our deposit back, and we just, for the next week, just did whatever we could do to find a place.
I lived on Detroit Street in Wilshire, and I was like,
yeah, you're further south
to death.
Yeah. And back then it had just come out of some pretty dark stuff. I mean, it was dangerous for a while.
Had the Rodney King stuff.
Yeah, further south. Yeah. But different kind of local problems, just a lot of, they kind of let the place go.
Oh yeah.
And it was very rough around the edges. Once you got off that main road that everybody knows about, it was seedy, and it's not a place you wanted to be. So we figured that out real fast. And then, just actually ended up in Burbank. The same person we met that got me the job, she's like, you should be in Burbank.
You didn't borrow them over?
Yeah. You could throw a rock over the mountain when it wasn't rush hour.
Yeah.
And in no time you'd get there, but in rush hour, it was like 2 hours still to get to where we ended up working.
Kids, I just had one ask me today, they're always like, how do you do it? It's like this, I don't know, this misty, mysterious place that people like you land in it, and you have, I don't know if you did, but you just don't have a clue. I remember when I got there, I went up on Mulholland Drive, and I was looking out over all these lights, and I was like, not only do I not know how I'll be in show business, but I don't know how I'll ever meet anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very intimidating.
I mean, way before social media, before all of those things that have helped so much to connect with other people. I mean, I do remember feeling like I was in an ocean of a city. I mean, you can't get your bearings. It just felt so overwhelming that way. And it didn't take too long. As a PA, you do a ton of, errands and all these things. So I learned the town pretty fast. And then you get a much better sense of its accessibility, I guess, in some sense. And it gets a little smaller, feels a little more possible. Even just that kind of felt good, and kind of know where the studios were, where different things happen around town. And that helps. Just getting there helped. It's a little hard to know how to kind of like break open that conversation right now with young people going in, because it's so different. I think there's a ton of advantages.
Yeah, things
right now.
have changed.
Yeah.
I mean, you may have had this. I had Variety and Hollywood
Yes.
Reporter, that kind of
Yeah, the physical magazines that were,
Yeah.
in everybody's office. And I mean, they probably still get them just for show, but I don't know.
Probably online now.
It's official now.
Yeah, it feels really different. I remember it was like a huge epiphany to me when I figured out that 405, Hollywood Freeway, Ventura Freeway, and the 10 actually was the boundaries of Los Angeles. If you knew those areas,
Yeah.
the rest of it was going to kill you probably. So stay away from everything else.
Right.
But all the studios were right there,
Right.
within that rectangular box.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went, I was probably 12 or 13 on just a trip, like a family trip. And I remember arriving, and it was probably Orange County, and it was like the city that never ended. We said, let's go to, LA, and you just drive forever.
Yep.
But it never looks like it's changing. It's just
And San Diego is the same way. It's all one town.
So you're right. You get these sort of physical markers and, boundaries. You get a much better sense of it. And it helps a lot. I mean, I love the area. I love so much about it. It's a tough place to live. It's nice to, to have history somewhere else, because you can kind of escape for a while and decompress, whatever.
Did you ever
LA's
feel
fun.
like you were losing your way? And not physically, but I mean,
Right.
your moral compass or something out there? Because it's hard to find a compass sometimes. You probably had
that's
a
a good
church
question.
family or something. Maybe.
We did. I mean, we got into one. That was a big priority for us. I mean, I think I was aware of that problem very young. I mean, the industry it's pretty obvious if you look at it. It's a pretty, it cuts against migraine. It's not a place that there's a lot that happens that I'm okay with. I mean, it's definitely a morally hard place to be if you're not into all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Rebecca and I were kind of ahead of a lot of things. I mean, we came out, we were very young. I think I was 24 or something, 23, and already married, which was a huge
You
anomaly.
didn't to go through that whole drama.
What's wrong with you straight away?
Yeah.
Then we started having kids late 20s, and we're like, wow, no one's even thinking about marriage yet. They're thinking about that in their 30s.
Yeah.
So I think we always made people curious, and but in terms of the temptations and all that, I think it's all there. A lot had happened in my life where I got to a point where I really wasn't drawn to those kinds of things. The challenge for me was to feel good about what I worked on, to feel like it's hard enough to get into that business. But when you have some boundaries, I mean, it's astronomically more difficult. It's not something that anyone wants to hear. The whole philosophy is take whatever comes to you, because you don't know where that might lead you, and you don't know what you might be turning down if you don't. And that was everybody's hustle, was just yes, yes, yes to everything, whether you agreed with it personally or not. So you'll hear that a lot, where people are like, well, it's like they've differentiated between their personal views and life and thoughts, all the rest of it, beliefs. And there's this sort of professional persona that they think that they can kind of just live through. And that's not something I agree with. I feel like, how do you escape what you're doing, really? Maybe at some level, but I think the places you end up, the people that you end up around, the kinds of stories that you can end up being a part of telling, there's a lot of things that I think people really need to look at personally and draw some lines and go, this is not me. Sell yourself out just for the opportunity, which is just such a pervasive, I I'd say problem, but maybe someone else would say strategy.
So did your parents bring you up that way where you had that line in you or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Because a lot of people go out there looking for that line and people
Right.
will say, oh, it's over here,
Right. And I discovered that, even more myself, just through my journey. But it's, my parents, they came out of the true hippie movement, like
Pure
sex, drugs, and the rest.
okay.
It was free love, all of it, and so they had a radical life change. The Jesus movement happened in that time. I don't know if people are real familiar with that, but in the midst of this reaction to everything that's going on culturally and the hippie movement sort of taking hold, it led to a ton of just disillusionment. And you see when you fully give yourself over to all of your urges and things like that, a lot of people felt empty from it. And so my parents were two of those people, and they felt like, no, this isn't actually the answer.
Was this kind of like after Altamont or the Stones thing where there was,
I don't know,
Hells Angels killed somebody or
no,
something?
I don't remember exactly in terms of the timing, but it was definitely, it was probably towards the end of it, but it was a powerful experience for them, and they didn't know each other when it happened to them personally. So they kind of met after pretty radical things that happened to them. So that's not long after what I was born into, it's sort of a dissatisfaction with just the religious status quo and doing things because you were raised to view them, tradition. I mean, my dad was a Catholic formerly when he grew up, and he rejected all that, but he really embraced, God still. So that was kind of the seedbed of.
So what kind of movies did you want to make out there? Did you get to make them?
I think I will. I knew that what I wanted to do was going to mean, just being more selective about what I was a part of. So, there was just certain things that I wouldn't do. And so I felt like my main goal was to become an artist and to really understand filmmaking, how to do it, not try to emulate everyone around me, but try to figure out in a personal way, what that would look like for me, and just learn the technical side of it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is it a technical sense that you're talking about, or the writing creative part?
All that was very technical at first. That was critical, like really trying to understand writing, screenwriting, story, all the sort of foundational elements that everything rises out of, So that's what I did. I sort of started where I felt like this is the foundation and just build from there. And through a lot of self-study and observation, and eventually trial and error with short films, which was really hard to do back then. I mean, this was like, you could take an iPhone right now and probably make a movie that would look good on a movie theater screen. Back then, it was like camcorders had just sort of gone out, and mini DV was in. It was nothing. I mean, you couldn't do anything. No matter what you did, it looked terrible. So you learned what you could without having the ability to actually do the thing you love, which was film it, all that stuff. So studied acting, studied writing. Eventually digital cinema changed everything, and you start to feel these unbelievable tools land on the table. And
it's like a revolution.
Revolution. I mean, it went from being embarrassed about what you did, no matter how it looked. It was just very hard to make it look cinematic, like all the professionals and all the movies you fell in love with. And then Red Camera comes out and changed all that. And we managed to use that on our second short film. And it was just so, so beautiful.
That's a Butterfly Circus.
No, that was a little short called Stained. It's not even really out there to be seen, but it was our second short. And we had a lot of amazing tools to just try out, and
So when did
go for it.
Rebecca join you in this adventure? I know you were married, but at what point did she kind of get on board and say, yeah, let's...
It was right around that time. So I think 2007 was when I did my first short film, and 2008 is when we did that second one. So she and I wrote that one and wrote one following that, and then that led to the Butterfly Circus, which is kind of what really set the stage for us. But I'm coming from I kind of pulled her in around 2008, and it was more of like, hey, can you help me do this? Because she had lots of great ideas about the first short film. So I thought, she has a knack for this. I mean, you should just, it's tough to get people to jump in with you on short films or anything. You don't have money to say,
marry him.
Right? Yeah, there you go. We're married. Take advantage of that. Have some children.
Yeah.
And she had a knack for story, and it actually really worked well. So we thought, well, let's do the next one. And, she was aiming towards, clinical psychology and that route, maybe even some academia, but at least a practice. And I'm like, I think with one movie, we'll probably do a lot more than you could do just in a counseling office year after year. If we could get these things, meaningful things in stories that really, people resonate with and are gripped by and impact them. I mean, I think that really got her excited. So that's when she sort of threw herself in this and thought, yeah, that feels good. So it's kind of like a thing that just grew out of necessity and relationship, and then turned into, a really great thing. She's actually a great balance, because she didn't grow up like me with all of this love for film. She's able to see things like an audience member in some ways. So she, she can tell when it's like, oh, you're just getting too heady, you're getting too artistic, and no one's, going to relate. And she's really good at kind of guiding the groundedness of those kinds of decisions. So it's turned out to be a really amazing thing.
Is it hard for you not to see, like, when I watch a movie, I'm sort of like watching the edge of the frame, kind of. I'm thinking about, it's hard for me just to let it wash over and enjoy it. That happen to you?
I've never had that. I actually had to work hard to study it. I don't know what it is. I mean, I will go into something going, okay, I'm going to really dig into this part of the filmmaking, and I totally forget and just get caught up in what's happening. So it's good and bad. It's good because it hasn't ruined filmmaking for me. I mean, a lot of people would say that they don't even really enjoy the movies because they're always thinking about how it happens. But for me, yeah, I mean, I try to grow continually, but it's a little bit of a work, to just train my mind to pay attention to the technicalities. So it's weird. I don't know. But you asked about film. I mean, I've always wanted to do things that were mainstream. I mean, I never even thought in those terms. It was just like movies were mainstream. If you want to make movies, that's what you're aiming for.
So what kind of movies would you, what do you have, like, movies that affected you as a child or as a grown-up?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my parents would watch all kinds of things, but things like, I remember On Golden Pond, these kinds of things. Yeah. Even as a kid, I mean, I loved that movie. I don't know.
Was it emotional, beautiful?
It was just so amazing. So we would see films like that, but also the Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars, all of these quintessential type films, that light that fire. So that was me. I kind of had a sense of both. And, but I wanted what I do to affect people and not just be entertainment. I knew that.
Why? Where did that come from? Is that your parents working with disabled people? Or where we make these wrinkles in our brain. Where did that come from?
I think I personally, had come to a point. Actually, I think I recognized this even at a younger age. So yeah, some of that was just from upbringing, but I think if I go back, I can think about a very personal kind of journey with all of that. It wasn't like, it was never, mom and dad said to do this, so that's what I'm going to do. Or the people that I hang around, this is what's important to them. It just was never that. And I think I was really in touch with people's needs and wanting to be a part of resolving them. I can remember that going all the way back to like Mississippi Burning, and feeling riveted by the injustice of that whole issue, and as a kid, just feeling like, these are the kinds of movies that change things, So as much as I would want to do a Raiders of the Lost Ark, what I love about Spielberg is he does both of those things.
Yeah, he does. He touches your heart.
That's why he was such a powerful filmmaker in my mind. He was very, very naturally able to do that whole range of work.
Just watched E.T. again, like 2 months ago, and just wept like a baby.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So
wow,
beautiful.
Yeah,
I
wept. I remember that just vividly when he, I'm sure I'm not ruining it for anyone, but when E.T. goes, I'm like, oh God, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So it's probably part of that is just knowing how it affected me, and then knowing that I want to do things like that matter, things that change people. There's a lot of evil and darkness in the world. I'm a Christian, so to me, it's like you either live for this or you don't, and it's meaningful to you or it's not. And so that's a part of it. But I never resonated much with, I guess what I'd say was coming out of that community creatively growing up. It just wasn't something I was interested in. So anything I was thinking was just whatever's in the theater. One day I hope my stuff's there.
Yeah.
And hopefully it does some good.
What do you think about people say, well, Christian films are less than, or they don't have all the qualities?
Mm-hmm.
Can you fix that? Or is that true? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's true. I think historically it's true. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. It's hard to be concise because it's a layered issue. If you go back centuries, people who followed Christ were not afraid of the arts. They weren't avoiding the arts. They were fully engaged with the arts. And, this is before postmodernism and things that have changed a lot of that. But I think we all know, for the most part, people were religious and they created out of that kind of mindset and belief system. But that doesn't mean it wasn't real. It just means that was kind of the way culture was, what it was centered around. And so I look back at that and go, okay, why did we lose that? What happened? And you have to follow a number of paths.
Did we lose that in the 60s or was it a long time ago?
Probably, right? I think it's fair to say that, we really began to retreat. People who would say, yeah, I follow Jesus, began to retreat from those kinds of things. Culture was shifting so much, and all of those beliefs were being challenged. And I think one of the responses was like, let's run away from this. Let's reject it. So while you reject something personally and don't want to partake in it, but you remove yourself from that sphere, you're leaving a massive void. And you are now also, you're not learning anymore. You're not engaged anymore. So you
self-consciousness, sort of like you had to be cool and cynical, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I think what I saw was, or when I kind of look back at it and read about it and think about it, I think people were, rather than saying, hey, things are now coming into culture that scare me and I don't agree with, rather than saying, I'm just going to work to find a bigger place there and maintain a voice. And so there's always, a viewpoint to consider. I think they said, this is evil, let's get out of here, and left that vacuum. And then what happened is, like I said, artists began to struggle to develop those gifts and skills. And then you've got people who moved into that space who didn't want them there anymore.
So it was just an empty glass, and they filled it up.
And they're not welcoming. It's not like, let's make space for people who, believe completely differently than we do. So there's a very, I hate to use the word interesting, but it because I think it's so serious. We see the skills even become affected and dwarfed and even changed to where you start to see people only engage with creativity that's right in line with their views. And then it's like they don't have a sense of what like the heights of creativity can be. And so they only sort of partake in that space. And then that's what they begin to kind of strive for. Oh, if I really love that one film, even though it was, in terms of quality, a lot less of an accomplishment maybe than some of the mainstream stuff, that becomes the new standard. And so you have this tension where you need to grow as an artist and you need to understand the art forms, but where do you engage in that? Where do you maintain a voice and a place? Because it's an industry that just wants to push all that kind of thing out. And so
was there a place in Los Angeles for that voice?
I think when I first got there, it was, I'd say, very low grade type of work. It was not being seen by many people, so I think it's definitely advanced. It's grown, but I would say I do feel like one of the things we need to do in terms of where I sit, and people who maybe believe like me and are trying to figure this out, I think it's important to really grow as a creative and figure out where you can do that without maybe selling your soul. It's tough to do that, but it's really important, because you just go backwards. If you have nothing to build on or any understanding of how it all works. Frankly, I just don't. If you really get down to it, in the early days of sort of that type of filmmaking, I think it was it became kind of a shell for, let's say, a message or something. It really wasn't about the craft or what you were doing. It was about getting the message out there. And so a lot of people didn't care about
Do you have
what
any
they achieved.
examples of it so I can get people to relate or not? There's also, the 10 Commandments and those kind of movies.
Oh, yeah. Those are huge achievements, right? There's some of the most expensive movies and the best creatives, and all that. I think you go back to like Omega Code type stuff. These are early faith-based type movies.
I have no idea what that
exactly, is. Yeah. Left Behind is one that, kind of the early version of this very, very popular book series. They made a movie about it, and it just, it's one of those ones that people refer to.
Like if people watching this wanted to check this out, could they find Left Behind?
Yeah, they could find that. But, honestly, I guess if there's curiosity, I think that people who kind of share my goals or hopes, I think what I would encourage right now is what I'm doing for myself is just try to look at the best things that you can that don't, cost you your soul. And I was getting into that a little bit earlier. I think what's challenging is that there's a lot in some of these movies that you just don't want to see if you're someone like me. So it's hard to learn. It's hard to study. It's hard to, really figure out where do I grow as a creative when that's a big problem.
So what do you do?
It's probably, a series of imbalances. You try to be really careful what you expose yourself to. And just as kind of a side note, and there's a lot of research that would show that these things matter whether you're religious or not, in terms of violence and what these kinds of, the way that sexual exploitation is used now. I mean, all of these things, whether you're religious or not, they have an impact on culture. They have an impact on people. So I think we all have, frankly, a responsibility to be really careful what we see and what we encourage and partake in. But as someone trying to learn from it, you try to find the ones that, maybe you can take pieces of them. There's ways to filter around stuff that might be a problem, but I think a lot of it has to do with just kind of your heart too. Your intentions are, to really live in a way that protects you and your relationships, your community. I think that's the ultimate goal. And you can get kind of like caught up on all the details, I think, sometimes, when it's all about getting it perfect. So there's tension there, trying to learn as a creative today in the entertainment space. And,
So how did you get to Nacogdoches with this creative thing going on?
Well, we've been working on a film called The Butterfly Circus. It's a short film, and we were working on a feature-length adaptation of that. And we can get into that and talk a little bit more about that. But basically, we got to a point where we had heard about this amazing story that happened near Nacogdoches, true story. And so,
had you ever heard of Nacogdoches?
Never heard of Nacogdoches. We'd heard of this kind of like whisperings of this true story that had happened where this community in some part of the United States, started adopting children and basically emptied the foster system in their area. So we kind of knew that it had happened because my wife and I had adopted a couple of children. So you came from a personal space or personal place for us. So that was going on personally, and we came across this story, and all of that came together. Our own sense of purpose in the foster and adoption arena. My wife was working in that space pretty heavily. We had adopted 2 children, and then we hear the story, and she meets these people when she was looking for a speaker at I think it was a conference or a convention or something. So she met Bishop Martin and totally hit it off, and we got together and felt like this needs to be what we focus on right now. So we kind of left Butterfly Circus for a time and started focusing on developing.
You were still living in Los Angeles.
We were in Los Angeles at the time. So had nothing to work with for this film. There was no investment, really not much of an investment to work with. We just kind of did it because we felt that sense of calling to it, and had come out here several times, learned about Nacogdoches because of one of the characters in the film. Her name's Susan Ramsey. She was a social worker who kind of was part of the spearhead in the child welfare part of the story. So she lived here, and we decided on one of our trips to check it out. And we thought, man, this is a great little town. And we were starting to feel like we needed to get to know this community more. It was such a meaningful story, and we felt like this has real potential to change things. And in the foster crisis, really specifically, there's 400,000 children in the foster system, and 100,000 roughly that are looking for homes and need help in America, United States. So there's this crisis going on. This story, we felt like this could really do something about it. And then as we were developing, and we liked where the script was, but we felt like we could really do something deep because we wanted it to be really authentic and powerful. And so we thought, let's move out to Texas and really, really get to know this community and see where that takes the story. And this was kind of on the end of COVID, so it was very easy to want to get out of all of that, and being locked up in your home in LA was not easy. So all of that together led to moving here, and we began to go to church with these guys and get to know them more. And
so if you're in Nacogdoches.
So we decided we should live in Nacogdoches. It's about a 45-minute drive to this little community out in Shelbyville, Shelby County. And so it's a bit of a trek, but we felt like, that's the smallest city that probably won't send our kids into a tailspin. So we went from LA to a small town. We couldn't exactly live in the pure country. So Nac was, had enough. The university.
Things to adapt to?
Definitely for the kids. I think I grew up in small towns, way, way smaller than this for different periods of my life. Rebecca did as well. And so I don't think we were in shock. If anything, we felt some nostalgia and sense of we could just relate. And we wanted the kids to experience that too. Try to give them as many interesting experiences as possible as they grew up. And we thought this could be really, really good for them. So several of them actually went through high school here. But it was all really about deepening the story and doing the best we could with this story. And that's why we came, and we hoped to actually make the movie here. But it didn't work out. Texas didn't have the tax incentives worked out. They had very, very little time. Yes, we made out. So they had very little to work with. They'd already basically spent all the money at the time. So we had to go to Georgia to do it. But that was part of the goal too. Let's just make the movie out here as well. So, long story short, we ended up, another reason we moved here is we felt like we could probably do Butterfly Circus. That was kind of always in the back of our mind, that we could do that here after the Possum Trot film. So it'd be worth staying. So we figured we'd be here for, a good number of years just because of that.
What does Nacogdoches need to do to help you make Butterfly Circus?
Well,
I mean, we're here. We might as well talk.
Yeah. So we, there's so much about Nac that's right for this film. It's a Depression-era circus film. Short film was 22 minutes long. It's on the internet. It ended up getting seen by probably 100 million people.
So tell them where to see it, what to do with it.
If you Google the Butterfly Circus, you'll find it all over the place. It's on YouTube. There's a Vimeo link. It's our official link. So thebutterflycircus.com will bring you there. And when we finished that film, put it on the internet, it went viral immediately. And like I said, it was seen all over the world and by a ton of people. It was unbelievable to see that happen.
Everybody wants to go viral. Why did yours go viral?
I think it was a number of things that came together. I mean, the story is so relatable to a lot of different people, especially people who have gone through hard things. It was really, really popular in Mexico, really popular in different parts of the world that you maybe wouldn't expect it. But this is a circus story set in the Great Depression about a troupe that travels around the United States. And it's led by this showman who basically finds marginalized people, down and out people, and brings them into his circus and kind of trains them in something. And so the main character is a character without arms and legs, and he is in a sideshow when the showman meets him. And so the story is about this character fleeing this sideshow exploitation and joining up with this circus. So really hopeful, really emotional, inspirational, all of those kinds of things. So I think it resonated with a lot of people who've been through struggle. I mean, the variety of people who contacted us, people who were on the verge of suicide saying, I saw the movie and it totally changed my perspective, to school systems. I mean, the entire German school system licensed our film for 10 years because they wanted to use it to address bullying and things in their schools. So there's a huge
Is there a biblical connection to all this too? And a thread of that under it?
It's meant to be something that can be enjoyed and experienced at different levels. I think people felt the spirituality of it and that sort of dynamic to it. And it was also approachable because it wasn't transacting on that, It was it was something that you could just experience personally. I think that's what really worked with it. It wasn't trying to just be one thing. And so people were able to experience it in a personal way, and it just caught on fire that way. Just all kinds of different kinds of people were sharing it. And so because of that, you know, we knew we wanted to make a feature film version of it even before we made the short. And so we had to condense it. But that's what convinced us that we could do this feature film version of it. So it was always in our mind. After it went viral, we began to develop the feature-length script for it, and ended up getting to work with some really amazing people along the way, and got some incredible support at the time, and really, really got close to getting this thing made at different places. One of them was Disney, couple of times there, and independent financing, some very, very significant independent financing offers came in. And so, but because of what it was and what we needed to do with it, we needed to really protect it. I mean, you throw it into the Hollywood machine and it will come out from the other side in a way that you may not recognize. So it was something we felt we need to guide this all the way through.
So you gave up some pretty lucrative kind of offers in order to maintain it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There were several that were monumental, and we knew like this will get the movie made at the level we want, but it may not look like the story we want in the end. So we had to either stand our ground and then the deal goes away, or just pass. And so, we
Rocky kind of thing going on.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, in some ways, there's always a lot of doubt. I mean, films are just hard to make, period. Doesn't matter. It's just like, but you do something where you've got some parameters and some, they would say demands. You're just annihilating your likelihood in their eyes. It's just like, it's hard enough to do this if we do it our way, and now you want to do it your way. So
also studios, I find, will pay you a lot of money and absorb that piece of property and then never do anything with it.
Right.
Most people I've known that have sold stuff, it never got made. Seems like it goes through so many different levels of yeses and nos.
Yeah, and the big studios, significant entities, they don't want anyone telling them what to do with things. So you could say, well, I need a guarantee you're going to make this movie. And they might even say, okay.
Yeah.
And then
sue us.
Comes down to it, you got to sue us.
Yeah.
So, and who's got a purse that big? If you're the little guy, and they just know, you will never get what you want. Doesn't matter what the contract says. So we were aware of those things just because we'd been paying real close attention. And so we decided, okay, again, we did Possum Trot, and then we felt like in the back of our mind, Butterfly Circus should be next. And
did you learn? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
did you learn some stuff on doing Possum Trot?
Oh,
few lessons.
I always wanted to learn on a smaller film. Possum or
your dreams came true.
Yeah, Possum Trot set the stage for a lot. I mean, we fell into the success of the Butterfly Circus. It just kind of happened. So it wasn't like we planned it that way. And so it was huge. It was a very expensive independent film. So yeah, I wouldn't design it that way if I could, do it, I suppose, the way that maybe makes a little more sense. So yeah, I think it's really good that we got to do Possum Trot, learn a ton of stuff.
But you got great response too.
We did, yeah.
Still are, I guess.
It's done so much of what we hoped in terms of the issue and really moving people's hearts to kids in crisis and families in crisis and trying to figure out how they can get involved. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. And then just practically all the things that we learned from it, that we will bring to the Butterfly Circus, it's monumental. So yeah, it happened. And in the end, it happened the way I think I would have hoped it would happen. Yeah. So as we get closer to this one, again, it's a Depression era story. A lot of Texas has these small little towns, and they're not that far apart a lot of the time.
We've tried to save our historic buildings for you.
Exactly. And thank God that many of them have that feel. And so we just looked around and thought, this is really probably where we'd be looking anyway, whether we lived here or not. Now that we live here, and you know, there's a lot of reasons personally to want to do it here. The challenge, though, is that it's pretty landlocked. You know, it's not near Dallas. It's not really near even Houston. It's East Texas, deep East Texas. All the people you need to make films, especially movies at this level, are nowhere near here. So there's advantages that we see here. I would love to see this story happen where people would care more about it. You know, in a lot of cases, most cases, films come and go, and you know, they do it as cheap as they can, and they just leave the dust behind them. And I would love to see this one be something that people learn it was done here and want to come see where this movie was made.
Is that a little bit like Steel Magnolia's effect
Right,
over in
right.
Nacogdoches?
Yeah, a lot of those Steel Magnolias, Bridges of Madison County. I mean, even I mean, a lot of this is in Georgia too, where you know they've done so many movies out there where people just want to go see where their favorite movie was done, whether it was meaningful or not. You know, they love that, and so I don't want to waste it. You know, I don't want to waste the opportunity, and so we've gotten to talk to a lot of people here about that, and I mean, it resonates. You know, a lot of people agree. I see that.
I couldn't believe the response when you spoke to Rotary that day.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you thought, but man, people were just like, I just didn't know, you know, and what they just loved it. They loved the thought of what you brought today.
It's good. And it's a hard thing, you know. First, it's weird that movie people are here. That's what we get a lot.
Yeah.
And then you see that resonance with doing Butterfly Circus here, or a movie like that here. And of course, a lot of people are going to get excited about it. But what do you do with that? You know, that's where we're at now, is how do the people of the area help this happen? And there will be significant costs that we incur just by doing it here. I mean, there's no crew near here. So you're going to bring in a huge crew, and you have to put the crew in housing and feed them and all of the rest of it. So it's a really expensive thing. If you did it where they live, you don't have to do all those things. You know, they can commute. So there are challenges with it. So, you know, if you bring that to some financiers or production entities and say, hey, we want to do it out in Nacogdoches, you're probably going to go like, why?
Yeah.
Why would we spend more?
In defense here, SFA does have a film school that could train a lot of interns and things, I guess. So that's a possibility.
Right.
Do you know about the Volume Studio that UT is building?
I've been hearing about this.
Okay. So they're trying.
Yeah. That's
several $1 million they're trying to help.
I definitely see the energy in certain areas for sure. I mean, even you've just been such a support for this. And, you know, I think what I would love to see, and I think what will partly determine this, is if we can get enough financial backing here that we can then take to other financiers and say, hey, we have meaningful financial backing here. So you share that with a number of different parties. It looks a little different to the people not from here saying, why are you doing it here? Yeah. It becomes more personal. It's something that communities like this really do have to personally embrace, so that it encourages producers to bring things, because there's just not practically enough reasons to do it.
It's really just bringing that first piece of credibility, and then sometimes the bricks all fall in your favor after that. People want to get on board if they know the town is on board and people
right.
are, you know.
And a lot of that will happen. I think it's those champions, it's those handful of people who say, I'm going to do whatever I can do to get this to happen here. In a community like this, you have people who have generations of families and going way back, you know, and so people like us come into town, it probably seems, frivolous or something, and it's hard. It's hard to take serious.
Is what it
there
is.
You go.
They're a music band,
right?
And at first, everybody's like, when I moved here, they told me, they said, or somebody, a friend of mine said, Brad, they're going to have to read your mail for a couple of months, and I was like, what? I don't understand. Yeah. And they're like, they just need to know that you are here for a real reason.
Yeah.
That whatever your reason is, that you're genuine in what you're trying to do.
Right.
So,
It would be easier for us to just go somewhere else and do it, frankly. I mean, that's the reality. So I hope it happens here, and I hope people hear the intention in us. Like, if we could do things here that people want to come back and see, and we know that happens. I mean, you mentioned one movie, but it's common for people to, especially when a movie moves you.
Yeah.
They it's almost like it marks their life somehow, and they gotta somehow feel the real place, or even though it's made up, like they just want to touch it. And I think that could happen if so our goal is to, shoot enough of the movie here, even if it's not the whole thing, we shoot enough of it, a meaningful number of scenes that people would want to go back and experience where that happened. And we build things in a way that are more permanent. And so it's kind of in phases, and that's what we've been talking about with people. And I think like everything else, there's always the chicken egg situation, what comes first. And I think if the core people who know what this can do for NAC really, really get behind it, and that's coupled with what momentum we have already seen and we're bringing, it really could happen here. I think it does depend on that. And if we have the tools to go to other people and say, hey, because you also have to convince actors to come here, we're talking about major cast, and those are always questions that, you're going to have to answer. Where are they going to stay? And we have some amazing places here, and there's a lot to be proud of. So I think it could really, really highlight the region. And I would say, even in a sort of cultural way, to see a story like this be done in a place that really, I think most people want to see, those good things of life that maybe they grew up with maintained, not just lost to modernity and see all those things sort of disappear. And I think a film like this could do that as well, where it's sort of defines in some sense some of the cultural aspects of the place.
I think people are yearning for, like, if it's not just a throwaway film that you watch one night and put away, but it's one that affected your life. And I know those are few and far between, but it can happen. I think the culture is ready for something like that. And it gives people a sense, to me, of, like, I'm from Nacogdoches, rather than people are oftentimes maybe not ashamed, but like, oh, where I'm from is not that cool. I wish I was from London or something.
Yeah.
But if you guys can strike that spark, people will be like, hey, you know where I'm from, don't you? And it has that more of a spiritual quality to it. I think there's a hunger for that right now.
Yeah. I mean, people, I love this about people, that something creative affects them so much that, being in touch with the real, whatever part of it is real, is powerful. And I hate the idea of losing that. There's a major movie, I remember, it was called Seabiscuit. Remember Seabiscuit? Yeah. They built this unbelievable building and for the movie. But because, it was definitely over $1 million for this building. But because they didn't want to build a permanent foundation for it, they had to demolish it after production.
It's like Happy Shea having the Alamo.
So it's like,
down in
why,
Brackettsville.
That's how the industry thinks. They don't have time to get caught up in, well, do we sell it? What do we do with that? I don't know. But what a waste of a resource, And so something like this, just on that level, not to mention the emotional, spiritual level, I think, it could be exciting in a lot of ways. And it's, I'm amazed at what's happened with it. It's uncomfortable even to talk about in some way, because, it's hard to believe some of it, but it's really been miraculous to see what's happened with this short. And we had, Clint Eastwood gave me an award for the film when it was doing kind of like the festival circuit. And, and we were working closely with, one of the executive producers of Lord of the Rings. Like, really significant people were taking notice. And so it's not just a personal, hey, I think it's going to work, personally, and I've done nothing. You've got other people chiming in and saying, yeah, I see what was in you and what this could become. I mean, it's very exciting. So I want to see it do as much good as possible. Everything from the making of it to how it's received in the release, really down the road. So we're making really good progress. We're doing everything we can do to see it happen here. And if we aren't successful, we'll see, but it'll be most likely somewhere in Texas. Texas just has so much to offer. There's an outside chance. South Africa actually is an amazing place to film as well. Just the costs are significantly lower, really good crews.
Your son got married over there?
My son found his wife there. She's amazing. And so even more reason. But yeah, we're caught in that place where, we have a great thing. We want to do whatever we can do to get it to reach its highest potential. And it involves a lot of other people, though.
Is the script finished?
It's finished. Yeah, it's been finished for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a cast in mind? Like, I mean, if you had a dream cast.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we would love to go after, Matthew McConaughey is someone who's well before we even thought of Texas was one of our main hopes for a cast. We'll see, but we have a number of others at that level that we think would just be amazing. And frankly, a film like this needs people at that level to really support the budget that it would take to make the movie. So
Dennis Quaid's coming to speak.
I do. Yeah, I got to be there.
I mean, there's those guys that testified for the film. What do you call it? The tax.
Yes, the tax incentive package.
SB 22, I think it was called. They're all here. I think they would. I don't know, but it seems like if you had the project. No, East Texas, you're not close to Houston, you're not close to Dallas, but it could be the first, like somebody had to plant that first movie in Los Angeles because it wasn't the movie capital of the world either.
Right.
And I'm not saying you can become the movie capital, but you could certainly make East Texas seems to me, perfectly in the sweet spot of life right now because you have water. You have people think of Texas, they often think of Big Bend or they think of West Texas. This is a different kind of Texas here. And it hasn't really been, that's a resource that hasn't been tapped, which is locations and filmmaking in Texas. So maybe you could be
Yeah, we have longer term goals with it too. If we do this, the next thing we want to do is a TV series. Like Taylor Sheridan's doing this over and over again.
Yep.
Just massive successes with TV series. That's always been the goal. We've had significant interest in that as well. So it's something like wherever we do this, it could be something that goes on for years and years and really could be a meaningful part of just even the economic development of an area. So yeah, it's not going to become the LA of Texas, but
I hope not.
Texas it's got so much to offer, just with locations and looks and different things. I mean, I think that practically it's a beautiful state with a lot of reasons to take it very seriously for a film maker's hub and destination, and that's what I think motivated the tax incentives to increase.
Can you help explain that? Because a lot of people are very suspicious. They're like, we don't want these Hollywood creative types rolling into town and spending all our money or whatever.
Yeah.
Can you make sense out of that for people?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Definitely. I think that it's understandable. Hollywood is so different than a lot of Texas, and so it makes sense to me that there would be reservations and people would question it. But really, to me, it comes down to: do you want to have a voice in all of this or not? This is not going away. I mean, entertainment is not going away. So you can just retreat and stay out of the conversation, or you can try to figure out how do we become a meaningful part of what's happening.
That's great.
And
You could either let them roll over you, or you can get a.
You just can't ignore this stuff. I mean, it feels like you can ignore, but you can't ignore it. Even in a town like Nacogdoches, culture will just steamroll whatever won't resist it. And so if you believe something different and you want to have a place in all of that culturally, you have to do something. You have to be proactive about it. And even the everyday resident, it's like, what do you want to see your community be about?
Yep.
So that's what I think was the most difficult thing about getting the tax incentive increased and provide more, was that fear you're talking about. But, I don't think it's actually that complicated. If you structure your incentives and the regulations around it properly, then you can keep out the things that you don't like. And so as long as productions abide by certain criteria, then they get the incentive package. If they don't, then they don't get it. I mean, that's that simple. If you want what Texas can offer, then you're going to have to follow those regulations. And there's no producer who's going to come here and spend tens of millions of dollars and risk not getting 20-30% of that back because they decided not to abide by the regulations or all of those guides, those boundaries that Texas is trying to make. So what we've been saying is Texas just needs to define the kind of thing it wants to support.
Do they know what they want?
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot do. I think for the most part, my impression is, they do. They maybe are still sort of worried that it won't matter what those boundaries are. Maybe it'll just happen anyway. And but I really think that what this comes down to is money. In this respect, it's, producers will come here, they will make things, and then they will get a significant amount of money back from Texas for doing that.
And so I think people that actually work in the industry won't have to compromise themselves so much because I'm a painter, I'm a carpenter, I'm a whatever. Well, there's work here for you, and that's what those incentives are for, really, is the working person.
And that's what could result if you get an actual industry created, and then people can live and work and set up their life around that. And there's infrastructure, there's investment. And this is what happened in Georgia. The infrastructure built up and grew up around the incentives there, which are significant. And so to have a meaningful industry develop, you got to have that part of it develop as well. And it's just not going to happen if they don't take it seriously. And so I think what we saw recently was an attempt to really take this more seriously, invest more money in it, and try to get the kinds of things that are, reflect Texas culture best in the eyes of Texans. That's what's happening. And so,
easy to talk about, but if you don't really put some skin in the game, it won't happen. Yeah. There's more sound stages and studios being built in Texas right now than I've ever seen in all my long time of life.
Yeah.
I mean, seemed like there's 7,000 acres that was bought in Bastrop, and one of our graduates from SFA has built his own sound stage down there. I mean, there's actual people putting real money into real things as opposed to just talking about it right now, it seems like.
Yeah, and that will, that'll be such a driver. If you can get people here who this is their life and career, and they can have enough work to keep them here, then you have a meaningful industry. If you don't have that, then it's just a one-off here and there, and it'll just never grow. And so I think what people who maybe are concerned, whether they're just residents or politicians or businessmen or all the rest, I see something coming together that protects the things that matter most to them. And, I think it's going to be really good for this state to lean more into that. I mean, it needs really a lot more than even they just recently
And that
passed. But
what you just said is also important. You're like, okay, so Brad, let me get this straight. You're going to build a film industry in Nacogdoches? No, we're building the state of Texas into a film industry. And I think if you live in Nacogdoches, you can still have a good-natured proudness and belief in the entire state. So the studio may not be in your town per se,
Right.
but you're a part of it.
right.
So that to me is because people oftentimes in our fears, we tend to, it's easier to push things away and just kind of avoid them or cut them down and say, well, you're crazy. Nacogdoches is not the film capital of Texas. No, it's not. But it can be one of the places, part of this whole state.
Yeah, and
Take a bigger view,
more,
guys.
The more that we establish here, and that's resourced well, the stronger all that will be. And you can go to these places that are a little more remote, a little easier. Just when you have more crew available, and people will still travel to do films and things like that.
Where's Landman based out of?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah,
Anybody know?
probably the Dallas area, but I'm not sure.
But I mean, it probably doesn't, or maybe Yellowstone for that matter. There's no way that it's taking place in 1863 or whatever. Right. It's here in Texas right now. There's places where those actors and those crew people live. It's Dallas or Fort Worth or Austin or wherever it is. But it's still that money and that economic sense of it and the morality of it is spreading. It goes wider than just those apartments those people live in or those houses they live in.
Exactly. I mean, I think the whole goal of these things is to encourage what happens beyond just the filmmaking. The other industries that are affected, the other people that are affected, the things that can happen in communities are beyond just the film itself. But other businesses are supported. You've got people who come and begin to spend life in these areas, and there is a huge economic upside to all of that.
I tell the students to watch the credits on a movie sometime. There's accountants and there's everything, computer skills, all the things your parents want you to be when you grow up are right here in the credits of a movie, if the movies are made here in the nation of Texas.
And a lot of people who just have no interest in going to New York or LA to learn, the more this grows, the more meaningful their experience in learning actually will be. I mean, people can take them more seriously when that grows. So I think we're seeing good things happen for Texas recently with this. I mean, I definitely would like to see a lot more, but I think it's understandable. You kind of want to see some things work and see how it goes. But you got to do something. You got to get involved, and even communities like this, that you cannot just sit back and be mad at the world. If you want it to be a certain way, then you have to do something. You have to partake and encourage things that you want to see.
Like you said a while ago, you think that this is a big picture thing. It doesn't affect the kids in the school or my kids, but it does, because that's the culture that you're introducing to them as opposed to the culture they've been introduced to all the time. So it does make a change on a personal level, because a lot of people just like, well, I'm just a person. There's no way, but it does affect you. It affects your children, affects everything if you really make a stand on things.
Yeah, when good things happen in communities, people get excited about that, and it makes them feel better about where they live. I mean, I remember growing up in a really small town and hating pretty much everything about it because it just felt like, who even cares about this, And that's common, right? With young people, you just, you don't see much beyond your own little life, but it's when good things, exciting things happen, it just builds that pride in where you live, and you feel better. I think this is an area too, where that's a factor. I mean, there's just a lot of hopelessness, a lot of, feeling stuck It's just the corner of Texas who even thinks about it, Some people kind of like that for what it is, but many are just probably feeling stuck. And so I would just love to see more of that as well. Just feeling good about where you live is important. And that's how you're going to get the best out of it, really. So we'll keep trying, we're going to keep at this and see where we end up. But
do you have another movie?
We have several others, all at different levels of development as well. We have 2 others that are knocking on our door that aren't ours, but that we may be a part of. So yeah, there's some things beginning to stir, which is great. And it's amazing to actually have some choices. It's hard to get to that point. So
I drove by your house the other day, not because I was stalking you, because it's on my little, like a dog, we kind of make a little run every once in a while. You have chickens.
We do.
What's the deal?
We do. Rebecca, she loves those chickens. We got to have the
fresh eggs and stuff.
Every day. I mean, we have more eggs than we can even eat. It's amazing. We love that stuff, and it feels natural here, where you can kind of have a little bit of that country in your life without overwhelming yourself. So no, we've always had them way back in LA.
Oh,
backyard chickens. Yeah, we had them. If it was, we probably had 24 back in that
Los
time.
Angeles?
In Los Angeles, yeah.
Wow.
We had a pretty big yard, kind of in the San Fernando Valley. So
yeah,
but we love that. It's like going back to so much.
Hippies, you hippies? Are you hippies?
It's really important to stay in touch with like real life. I think that's a big problem in the entertainment business, where people are so sequestered in their little urban entertainment bubble, and they're trying to create for people who most of them aren't there, or who come from things that aren't like that, and you lose touch. I mean, how do you tell stories?
Yeah, that goes to that shredder of going, this cute little story, the wonderful story, and it goes,
right. Yeah, those are the really fun, powerful films that are connected to the real world, and I think we're losing that. I think we got to gain it back. Those are the kinds of things I'm interested in. I want to see a return to those kinds of movies where there's more to relate to. They're not just some new avant-garde thing that is sort of experimental or just done to shock or to be new or different. I think we really need some things that we can kind of mark our lives by again, and grow up with.
I'm older, but there was the movie Shane when I was a kid. It was even an older movie then for me, but it had such a deep effect on me when they're going, "Oh, come back, Shane," or whatever. I miss that kind of movie. And you were talking about postmodernism a while ago and modernism. What can you define those eras for me? Because I don't know all about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that postmodernism is that detaching from objectivity and coming into a place where you can make up your own rules, and there's no other defining force on my life. It's the idea that you or society or culture decides what it thinks is right or wrong,
your own truth, or
your own truth, and you just sort of let go of what I think some would just call tradition, or I think improperly define it that way. When you say tradition, it seems like it's arbitrary or just not really connected to something grounded and real. It's more just like it could change. It's just a tradition. Right? We could change traditions all the time. And so I think when that happened, you have people just letting go of all kinds of things that anchored them and protected them and protected society. It's like you let go of the compass. We reject the compass now. Mm-hmm. And so when there's no compass and everyone is now fighting for what they think that compass should be, and maybe it's just personal. I mean, unbelievable problems spin out of that. And I think that's what we're seeing is like, you know, if you really, really believe that, then you have to accept some pretty scary things about the world, that you have no right to tell anyone
anything, yeah,
what's right or wrong. And really it's just whoever is the most powerful and most willing to wield that powerful wins. That's what it comes down to. So when you see that, I mean, you now even see that reflected in entertainment and all the different things that we involve in our lives in that respect. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a big topic to dive into, but I think it was a monumental shift in the world that, you know, is we're seeing the ramifications of that today still. Really.
Is it shifting back a little bit?
It does feel like it's whether the powers that be want it or not. Yeah, I think that one of the most amazing things about technology is the ability to just sort of inject yourself into society, whether anyone likes it or not. And if you go back 20 years ago, we were all just subject to the gates. It's like, if you don't get past that gate, you don't get to say anything. And so you're trying to figure out how do you have a meaningful place in this world? Or how do you have a voice? But now anyone can do it. And if it resonates with someone, it's going to begin to take a meaningful place in life. So I totally agree. I think it is changing. And really it's like, you want these voices there to be challenging our thoughts and our beliefs and our experiences. And when you just rob the world of what a significant number of people think and believe, I mean, I just don't think it's healthy at all. So I think we're seeing that finally, a return to other people getting to say something that you know, others may not agree with, but it's important.
You know, you talked earlier about wanting to go to, like, used to, you couldn't afford a movie camera. It was millions of dollars, and it was for UCLA, USC, NYU, whatever. That all broke down in that digital revolution that you're talking about, because I think after Tangerine was made or something, but I mean, you make movies on your cell phone now, and it's just amazing to me, the sort of the cultural revolution, both good and bad. Maybe we've gone overboard in different kinds of ways, lost our way to some degree, but order seems to be returning, and maybe it was chaotic for the first 20 years or whatever, but there seems to be some order. I feel like when I watch YouTube now, which you can go down a bad rabbit hole or a good one, but I feel like I'm re-educating myself in a lot of ways, because, like, instead of wondering about, I don't know, Socrates or something, rather than having to do it for 2 years or 20 years or a lifetime or whatever, you can just watch a 30-minute YouTube video and say, well, I've tasted it. I kind of like what I'm hearing here. Same way with the Bible, or same way. I mean, in some ways, I feel like I'm just now re-educating myself for the first time on things that I used to be just sort of interested in, but didn't know how to ask it or who to ask it. Which brings up in my mind, you mentioned, or I mentioned it earlier, I guess, with you, but you had actually, it was Amos that brought this up. You had an interview with Jordan Peterson. Mm-hmm. What was that like?
Yeah.
Did you feel welcome? Did you feel smart or dumb or just equal?
I don't know if anyone feels smart around him. It was definitely a life-marking experience. It was amazing to just have that opportunity. I mean, really, I think anyone in that space, frankly, you know, depending on which side you're on. Like, I mean, there's strong voices out there, and to get to be a part of what is being said and discussed and wrestled through, I mean, it's amazing. And
I'm not saying pick a side. I'm just saying you got to meet
it was,
one of the great scholars.
Yeah, he is, and he was just really kind and personable and embracing, and he really deeply cares about everything that he does. Just the whole experience, even before we got on camera. So yeah, it was one of those things that I will always look back on just with gratitude, for sure.
Are there other people like that you wish you could talk to?
I think so. And
Steven Spielberg or somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that people who are affecting culture, which is really to me our daily lives, I mean, I would just love any of those opportunities just to speak with people who are really out there affecting the world somehow. And whether you're in agreement with them or whether you're there to challenge, that's one of the things I'm so encouraged to see, is that we now have that. We're back to that place where we can see ideas sort of compete with each other and see the strengths and weaknesses of those things. And so someone like Jordan Peterson is full on diving into that with real intention, and Bill Maher and others like that too, trying to do it from their end, and but having the openness to let different kinds of people sit at the same table, and not shut each other down, in fear and in ignorance and all the rest. I would welcome any experience like that.
Are you a solitary person or a social person? Or
I'm probably both. I'm both. I definitely like time alone. I definitely am a introverted in that sense and get a lot from my time alone, but I definitely need people and enjoy being around people, and I really do love that.
I don't know how long we've talked, but it's probably a good time to wrap it up. I really appreciate it because I know you've done 1,000 interviews. How many interviews?
Jeez, I don't know. I mean, that definitely, the Possum Trot experience took us some
places,
interesting places. Yeah.
So I know that it's a gift on your part to come here, and I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. I'm just grateful to sit down and have a meaningful talk. I appreciate your interest and what you're doing.
And Josh Weigel, made in Nacogdoches. Thank you. We'll see you.
There ain't